The river flowed quietly beneath the old bridge, carrying small leaves and pieces of wood along its slow path. The bridge had stood there for many years, holding the weight of cars, trucks, and people who crossed it every day without thinking about what lay beneath. Early that morning, a diver named Adam prepared for a routine inspection. This was his job. He checked underwater structures to make sure they were safe. He had done this work many times before, and nothing about the bridge seemed unusual to him. Adam put on his gear and lowered himself into the cold water. The river was darker below the surface, and the sounds of the world above slowly faded away. His breathing echoed inside his helmet as he moved forward with steady motions. The metal supports of the bridge rose above him like shadows, covered in moss and rust. Fish darted away as his light passed over them. Everything looked normal at first. He continued swimming along the main support beam, checking bolts and joints like he always did. His light moved slowly from side to side, showing cracks, old metal plates, and tangled weeds. Adam was calm and focused. This was just another inspection. Then his light landed on something that made him stop moving. Attached tightly to the underside of the bridge was a long metal object. It was smooth and narrow, shaped in a way Adam had never seen before. It did not look like part of the bridge. It was not trash. It was not damaged equipment. It looked placed. Carefully placed. Adam moved closer, his heart beating faster. The object was about the size of a small boat, fixed firmly to the metal beams with thick clamps. Thin wires ran along its side, disappearing into the shadows above. The surface was dull, not shiny, as if it had been underwater for a very long time. There were no markings, no numbers, no signs of who made it. Adam felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold water. His hands tightened around his light. He circled the object slowly, keeping his distance. The shape reminded him of something powerful, something meant to move fast. The word rocket formed in his mind, and the thought made his breathing speed up. He stopped himself from touching it. Training told him not to get closer. Training told him to leave immediately. Adam backed away carefully, making sure not to disturb anything. As he turned, his light caught a small detail. One of the clamps looked newer than the rest. Someone had been here. Not long ago. Adam kicked toward the surface faster than he planned. His mind raced with questions. Who would put something like this under a bridge? Why hide it underwater? Why here? When he broke through the surface, he pulled himself onto the inspection boat, breathing hard. The river seemed too quiet now. The crew noticed his expression right away. They asked him what was wrong. Adam did not answer at first. He removed his helmet and wiped water from his face. His hands were shaking. "There is something under the bridge," he finally said. "Something that should not be there." The crew exchanged worried looks. Adam explained what he saw in short, careful sentences. He described the shape, the wires, the clamps. No one joked. No one smiled. They all knew this was serious. The inspection was stopped immediately. Calls were made. Photos from Adam's camera were sent to the local police. Within a short time, officers arrived at the riverbank. One of them, a man named Mark, took charge. Mark had worked as an officer for many years, and he had learned to trust his instincts. The moment he saw the images, his expression changed. The area around the bridge was closed off. Traffic was stopped. People were told to turn around. Curious onlookers gathered at a distance, whispering and pointing. Some tried to guess what was happening. Others felt uneasy without knowing why. Mark spoke with Adam near the river. He asked detailed questions. Adam answered carefully, repeating everything he remembered. Mark listened closely, his eyes moving from the bridge to the water below. He knew this bridge connected two busy parts of town. If something went wrong, many people could be affected. Divers were sent back into the water under strict instructions. They confirmed Adam's discovery. The object was real. It was attached firmly and hidden from view above the waterline. There was no easy way to remove it. No one knew what it contained. As the sun began to set, the bridge stood silent, guarded by police lights and quiet tension. People nearby watched from their homes and cars, wondering what secret the river was holding. Adam sat on the edge of the boat, staring at the water. He could not shake the feeling that he had uncovered something meant to stay hidden. That night, the river kept flowing as it always had. The bridge remained still above it. And beneath the surface, the strange object stayed in place, waiting. Morning arrived with heavy clouds hanging over the bridge, as if the sky itself was watching what was happening below. Police vehicles surrounded the area, their lights flashing quietly. The riverbank was blocked with tape, and officers stood at every entry point. People who lived nearby watched from their windows, feeling uneasy without fully understanding why. Officer Mark stood near the edge of the river, holding a tablet with the underwater images. He had barely slept. His thoughts kept returning to the shape of the object under the bridge. It was not random. Someone had planned this carefully. That thought bothered him more than anything else. A small group of specialists arrived shortly after sunrise. They wore plain uniforms and carried heavy cases filled with tools. Mark greeted them with a short nod and explained everything that had happened so far. Adam stood nearby, quiet but alert. His discovery had changed his normal day into something far bigger than he ever expected. The specialists lowered scanning equipment into the water. Screens flickered as data appeared. They studied the shape, the thickness of the metal, and the way it was attached. One of them spoke softly to Mark. There was no sign of power, no signal, no movement. That silence was unsettling. Traffic across the bridge remained stopped. Drivers complained at first, but the serious mood of the officers quickly silenced them. News vans began arriving, parking at a distance. Cameras pointed toward the bridge, waiting for answers that no one was ready to give. Mark ordered the area beneath the bridge to be cleared completely. Boats were moved away. The river was restricted. Even birds seemed to avoid the place. The bridge stood like a giant holding its breath. Adam was asked to explain his discovery again, this time to the specialists. He described the clamps, the wires, and the feeling he had underwater. He admitted that the object did not feel new, but it did not feel abandoned either. It felt watched. The specialists exchanged glances but said nothing. As hours passed, tension grew. The object could not be safely opened underwater. It had to be removed first. That alone was a challenge. The clamps were thick and designed to resist force. Cutting them underwater could cause damage or trigger something unknown. Mark approved a careful plan. The object would be lifted slowly using a crane from above the bridge. Every movement would be controlled. Divers would guide it from below. No sudden actions. No mistakes. The operation began in the afternoon. The crane moved into position, its arm stretching over the bridge like a long metal finger. Divers entered the water again, moving with extreme care. Adam stayed on the boat this time, watching silently. His chest felt tight as he saw the place where he had first spotted the object. Underwater, the clamps were loosened one by one. Each movement felt endless. The object remained still, refusing to give any clue about its purpose. Slowly, it separated from the bridge. The crane began lifting it out of the water. As the metal shape broke the surface, everyone went silent. Water streamed down its sides. In full view, it looked even stranger. Long, narrow, smooth, clearly designed, not accidental. Cameras clicked rapidly. Officers moved to block the view, but it was too late. Images spread quickly. The object was placed onto a secured transport platform and covered. Mark ordered it to be moved immediately to a closed location far from the public. The bridge remained closed. The river remained quiet. By evening, the object arrived at an empty warehouse on the edge of town. The building was old but strong, with thick walls and wide doors. Inside, bright lights were installed. Security surrounded the area. Mark stood inside the warehouse, staring at the covered shape. The room felt heavy. Everyone sensed that the next step would change things. Specialists checked their equipment again and again. No one joked. No one spoke loudly. Adam was allowed to stay as an observer. He stood near the wall, arms crossed, replaying the moment he first saw the object underwater. He wondered who had placed it there and why. He wondered how long it had been hidden. Late that night, after final safety checks, Mark gave the order to begin preparation for opening the object. Cutting tools were brought forward. The team moved slowly, knowing that whatever was inside had been sealed away for a reason. Outside, the town tried to sleep. The bridge stood dark and empty. The river flowed beneath it, carrying secrets downstream. Inside the warehouse, under bright lights, the strange object waited in silence, as if listening. And everyone inside knew one thing clearly. Once it was opened, nothing would feel normal again. The warehouse felt colder than the night outside. Bright lights hung from the ceiling, casting sharp shadows on the floor. The strange object rested at the center of the room, silent and unmoving. Officers, technicians, and specialists stood around it, keeping distance, watching as if it could change at any moment. Officer Mark checked the room one more time. Every door was locked. Every person had a role. No one moved without permission. He knew moments like this stayed with people forever. Whatever was inside that object would not be forgotten. The lead technician stepped forward. He was a calm man named Paul, known for his steady hands and careful thinking. He examined the metal surface closely. The shell was thick and strong, made to last. There were no signs of damage. No rust had eaten through it. Whoever built it had planned for time and water. Paul signaled for the cutting tool. The machine hummed softly as it powered on. The sound echoed through the large space, making everyone tense. Adam stood near the back wall, arms folded tight. His eyes never left the object. He remembered how it looked underwater, hidden and quiet, as if it had been waiting for this moment. The first cut began slowly. Sparks fell to the floor as the tool pressed against the metal. The noise filled the warehouse, sharp and constant. No one spoke. Every breath felt loud. The cut took longer than expected. The shell resisted, forcing the technician to slow down. This was not cheap metal. This was something carefully made. Mark watched closely, his mind racing with possibilities. He reminded himself to stay calm. After a long time, the first section loosened. Paul stepped back and nodded. The team paused. Scanners were used again. Still nothing. No signals. No heat. Just silence. Paul carefully lifted the top section. It came away with a dull sound and was moved aside. Everyone leaned forward without realizing it. Inside the shell was not empty. There was another layer. A sealed inner chamber, smaller and smoother, resting neatly in the center. It was wrapped tightly and secured in place. The room grew even quieter. Adam felt his heart sink and rise at the same time. This was not random. Someone had built this like a container inside a container. A secret inside a secret. Mark ordered another scan. The results were the same. No danger detected. Still, no one relaxed. The second chamber was removed carefully and placed on a clean table. Paul wiped his hands and studied it. The surface had marks that looked like wear from handling long ago. Human hands had touched this many years earlier. The chamber was opened slowly. Inside were several objects wrapped in thick cloth. Not machines. Not tools. Just items, placed gently, like they mattered. Paul unwrapped the first cloth. Inside were old photographs. Black and white images, faded but clear enough to see faces. People stood near the same bridge, smiling, unaware of the future. The bridge looked newer in the photos. The river looked the same. Another cloth revealed folded papers. Handwritten notes, careful and neat. The words were old but readable. They spoke of fear. of a mistake made during an experiment long ago, of a decision to hide the truth rather than cause panic. The room felt heavy as Mark read silently. The notes described a project that was never completed. Something that could have changed lives but was stopped before it went too far. The people involved chose to seal the evidence away, to protect others and themselves. Adam stepped closer, unable to stay back any longer. He looked at the photographs again. The faces felt real. Ordinary people. Not villains. Not heroes. Just humans trying to fix a problem they had created. One final item remained. A small metal box, locked but worn. Paul opened it carefully. Inside were documents and diagrams. They explained everything clearly. The object under the bridge was not a weapon. It was never meant to be used. It was a container built to survive water and time, designed to hide proof until someone found it. Silence filled the warehouse. No one spoke for a long time. Mark finally broke the silence. He ordered the items to be catalogued and secured. This information was powerful. It would be handled carefully. Not everything needed to be public. Some truths carried weight that could damage lives. Adam felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. He had feared something terrible. Instead, he had uncovered a piece of forgotten history. People had trusted time to bury their mistake. Time had failed them. As the team packed up the items, Mark stood alone for a moment, staring at the empty shell. He thought about choices. About fear. About how easy it was to hide something and hope it stayed hidden forever. Outside, the night was quiet. The town slept, unaware of the answers found inside an old warehouse. The river continued to flow beneath the bridge, carrying on as it always had. Adam left the building late that night. The air felt colder, but clearer. He knew his life would return to normal soon. But something inside him had changed. Some discoveries did not explode. They simply stayed with you, long after the lights were turned off. And deep down, Adam knew this was not the end of the story. The next morning, the warehouse felt different. The lights were softer, and the air was quiet. The strange object no longer stood at the center of the room. Only its empty frame remained, resting against the wall like a shell without a purpose. The items found inside had been moved to a secure room nearby. Officer Mark arrived early. He carried a folder filled with reports and notes from the night before. His face showed signs of tiredness, but his eyes were sharp. He knew the discovery would not be easy to handle. What they found was not dangerous in a physical way, but it carried weight. Truth often did. Adam arrived shortly after. He felt unsure about being there, but Mark had asked him to stay involved. Adam was the one who found it. That mattered. He stood near the doorway, hands in his pockets, looking around the room where everything had changed. A small meeting was called. Only a few people were allowed inside. Mark explained what would happen next. The documents would be reviewed by higher authorities. The photographs would be studied. Names would be checked. Every detail would be handled carefully. Some of the specialists believed the truth should be shared with the public. Others believed it would cause fear and confusion. The experiment described in the notes had failed, but the idea behind it was still powerful. Mark listened without speaking. He knew both sides had a point. Adam spoke quietly. He said people deserved honesty, but they also deserved peace. The people in the photos were long gone. The choices they made were shaped by fear and pressure. Judging them now would not change the past. The room went silent. Mark nodded slowly. Adam's words stayed with him. Later that day, the bridge was inspected again. Without the hidden object beneath it, the structure felt lighter, as if something heavy had been lifted. Engineers confirmed it was safe. The bridge could reopen soon. News reporters waited eagerly for updates. Mark gave a short statement. He explained that the object was not a threat and that there was no danger to the public. He avoided details. The crowd was not satisfied, but they accepted the answer. Adam returned to the river for the first time since the discovery. He stood on the bank, watching the water flow. The place where the object had been hidden looked ordinary now. Just water, shadows, and moving reflections. It was hard to believe something so important had been there for so long. That evening, Mark sat alone in his office, reading through the notes again. The handwriting felt personal. The words were filled with worry, regret, and hope. The people who wrote them never imagined this moment. They believed time would erase everything. Mark thought about responsibility, about how choices traveled forward, touching lives long after they were made. He wondered if hiding the truth had been the right decision back then. He wondered if keeping parts of it hidden now was any different. Adam went home that night feeling restless. Sleep did not come easily. His mind replayed images from the photographs. Smiling faces near the bridge. Ordinary moments frozen in time. He wondered what those people would think if they knew their secret had surfaced. Days passed. The bridge reopened. Cars crossed it again. Life returned to its normal rhythm. To most people, the event became a brief headline, quickly replaced by something new. But for Adam and Mark, nothing felt normal. Mark received a final decision from above. The documents would remain classified. A simple explanation would be released. The object would be described as a historical container with no risk. The deeper story would stay locked away. Mark understood the decision, but it weighed on him. He signed the papers and closed the file. The case was officially over. Adam was informed that his involvement was complete. He returned to his regular work. Inspections. Safety checks. Quiet dives beneath structures people rarely thought about. Yet every time he entered the water, he looked a little longer. Listened a little closer. One evening, Adam stood under the bridge as the sun set. The river reflected warm colors, calm and peaceful. The bridge cast a long shadow across the water. He realized something important. The object was never meant to be found quickly. It was meant to wait for someone curious enough, careful enough, and patient enough to notice it. And that person had been him. Adam felt a sense of responsibility he could not explain. Even if the full truth stayed hidden, he knew it. He would carry it quietly. Some secrets were not meant to be shouted. Some were meant to be held. As the light faded and the river darkened, Adam walked away from the bridge. Behind him, the water continued its endless journey, carrying the past forward, one moment at a time. And somewhere deep inside, Adam knew that the final chapter of this story had not yet been written. Weeks passed, and life slowly returned to normal for the town. The bridge carried traffic again, just as it had for years. People crossed it without stopping, without looking down at the river, without knowing what had once been hidden beneath their path. To them, it was just a bridge. To a few others, it was something more. Adam continued his work as a diver. His days were filled with routine inspections and quiet hours underwater. The river still felt familiar, but it no longer felt empty. Every dive reminded him that unseen things could exist just beyond sight. He moved more carefully now, with deeper focus, as if the water itself deserved respect. Officer Mark finished his final report and closed the case. On paper, the situation was simple and resolved. In his mind, it was not. He carried the memory of the photographs and the notes with him. He often thought about the people who had sealed their truth away, trusting time to protect it. He wondered if they ever felt peace. One afternoon, Mark requested a meeting with Adam. They sat on a bench near the river, watching the water move slowly beneath the bridge. There was no uniform this time. No formal tone. Just two people connected by a moment neither of them could forget. Mark thanked Adam for his calm and honesty throughout everything. He admitted that without Adam's careful actions, things could have gone very differently. Adam nodded quietly. He said he had only done what felt right. They spoke about responsibility, about how knowledge could feel heavy even when it caused no harm. Mark said some truths were not meant to be carried by everyone. Adam agreed. Not because people were weak, but because life was already full enough. As they sat in silence, a family walked across the bridge above them. Laughter echoed briefly, then faded. It reminded both men of why the truth had been hidden long ago. Fear of hurting ordinary lives. After that day, they did not meet again, but both carried the same understanding. Months went by. The warehouse was cleared. The object was dismantled and stored away. The documents remained sealed. The story faded from public memory. Adam received an offer for a different job in another city. It was safer, more predictable, and paid better. He considered it carefully. In the end, he declined. He chose to stay where he was. The river felt like part of him now. Sometimes, during early morning dives, Adam paused beneath the bridge. He looked at the spot where the object had been attached. Only clean metal remained. No marks. No scars. It was as if nothing had ever been there. But Adam knew better. He understood that history did not always leave visible signs. Sometimes it lived quietly in memories, waiting to be noticed. Mark eventually requested a transfer. He moved to a smaller town where work was slower. He needed space to think, to breathe. He carried the lesson with him. That silence could be a form of protection. That not every truth demanded a spotlight. Years later, the bridge was scheduled for renovation. Engineers planned to reinforce it and update its structure. During the planning, old records were reviewed. The strange object was mentioned briefly in archived files. No one questioned it. No one looked deeper. Adam watched the construction from a distance. He felt calm. Whatever needed to be known had already been known by the right people. On the final day of the renovation, Adam stood by the river at sunset. The water reflected the sky in soft colors. The bridge looked stronger than ever. He smiled faintly. Some stories end with noise. With answers shouted loudly. This one did not. It ended with understanding. The river flowed on. The bridge stood firm. Life continued. And beneath the surface of ordinary days, the memory of the strange discovery remained. Quiet. Steady. Real. Not everything hidden is meant to stay hidden forever. Some things wait patiently for the right moment. And when that moment passes, they return to silence, leaving behind only the people they changed.